In this video, basically what I want to do, I've been kind of dialing back my videos lately and kind of doing little introductory videos to the topics, to movements in philosophy, and I've done quite a few of them, and I'm just kind of trying to get all the intro ones out of the way so that I can move on to more tougher things. But I have about 90 videos in my Phenomenology playlist, but I have not done an introduction to Phenomenology as of yet. So I'm gonna do that now. First of all, I have broken down into concepts and philosophers. I'll deal with the philosophers first. First of all, Phenomenology is a theory in 20th century continental philosophy that was founded by Edmund Husserl. This is the main guy that founded it. Okay, he founded the whole thing, the whole movement. The first one that he wrote, which was kind of phenomenological, was the logical investigations. He has written a lot of neat things. He wrote the ideas of pure phenomenology. He wrote the phenomenology of internal time consciousness, and he wrote the Cartesian Meditations, which is an awesome book, I think. Sorry. And he wrote the Crisis of the European Sciences. Both of those books are later in his career as well. And this is a book by Rudolf Bernet, Isno Kern, and Eduard Marbach, an introduction to Husserlian phenomenology. For all of his works, this is a great secondary work. So I highly recommend that one. Basically, what phenomenology is, it's a science of phenomena. Science of consciousness as well. With Edmund Husserl's work, there's a lot of having to do with science and epistemology, and how to have a new kind of science which is grounded in phenomenology. So to kind of understand what phenomenology is, I'm going to go over here and explain these three as they relate to him. These relate to these guys, but these are more following Husserl. First of all, we have the reductions, or the epoche. We have the eidetic reduction, the transcendental reduction, and the phenomenological reduction. These are three reductions which have occurred all throughout Husserl's work. I recommend the Companion to Phenomenology and Existentialism, which is put together by Hubert Dreyfus. There's an article in there by Dagmar Folsdahl which explains the reductions in a threefold way. So the reduction, or the epoche, or the bracketing, those are the three ways to call it: the reductions, or the epoche, or also the bracketing. We have what is called the natural attitude. Natural attitude. What that is, before phenomenology we had things like realism and idealism. Realism holds, well, it's various theories which holds that whatever we see is objectively real beyond ourself and is mind independent. The idealist, on the other hand, says that what we see is mind dependent to a certain extent. So, but phenomenology, while the natural attitude deals with mind dependence and mind independence, that's what he calls the natural attitude. It has to do with talking about whether what we see is objective or subjective, or mind dependent or mind independent. Husserl's reductions, the appliqué or the bracketing, is bracketing of the natural attitude, or the parenthesizing. And what that is that we are not going to inquire into issues of the natural attitude anymore. We're not going to ask questions about whether something we see is mind dependent or mind independent, or whether it's subjective or objective. But we're going to go to the things themselves. And I apologize if this is getting a little messy, but this is a lot of concepts I'm trying to do in an introductory and cursory way. And if you want something more in depth, I have many videos on Husserl and Heidegger, and on Derrida, and a couple on Sartre, and a lot of videos on these things. So this is the dictum of Husserl. He says we should go to the things themselves, to where if I see this marker, I'm not going to ask whether my seeing of it is mind dependent or mind independent. I'm just going to go to the thing itself, to what I'm seeing itself. When I see this marker, I'm going to study the phenomena itself. Now, these to the things themselves could be thought of as Kantian, because Kantian thought of as noumena as the things themselves. Noumena as opposed to phenomena. That's not the case here. Husserl presupposes no noumena, and that we're just studying the phenomena and not trying to presuppose anything else. Just study the phenomena as we see them, and go from there. Study consciousness in that way. Study the things as they are given to us. So, first of all, the eidetic reduction is the reduction to not talking about mind independence or mind independence, and to talk about essences. Where we're talking about the essence of a certain object. This is a big essentialism is a big theory in metaphysics. Husserl also does stuff with it. We're talking about essences, and that the essence of this is greenness or roundness and such properties and such, but in an essentialist way. The transcendental reduction is talking about intentionality, the gnosis, the noema, and the highlight. And the phenomenological reduction is the combination of these two. So we're not talking about talking about the stuff that Plato talks about. We're not talking about the stuff that Schopenhauer or Berkeley talks about. We are going towards studying the phenomena, the things we see as they are given to us. Now there is an element in Husserl's philosophy of a transcendental idealism, but that still is a realist idealism, and it's, even though it's called a transcendental idealism in his ideas and later works, it is not inherently idealist. So, what is noesis? Our first one is intentionality. Intentionality is the element in phenomenology which says consciousness is consciousness of something. If I'm conscious of something, and my consciousness is directed at something. And the noesis, noema, and highlight are concepts of this, to where if I see, let's say, I see a certain object. The noema is the thing itself. It's the thing as it's presented. Like, the noema of this marker is the noema of this marker is the object itself as I see it. The object itself. The noesis, on the other hand, is the meaning of the object, or the understanding of the object, the way the object is understood, or the meaning, if you will, even though I wouldn't use a term like that, but so it's meaning in a way. So, for instance, Heidegger has the term ready to hand, where I understand a hammer as to hammer and nails. I understand the way I understand a marker as to how to use it to write with. That's the noesis. The hylae is the constraining material, the background constraining experiential material. To when I see this marker, I see it as a part of a lot of other things, and not as the marker by itself, separated from everything else. So these things. Now, again, I have more in-depth videos, but that's like very brief and cursory ways of talking about these things. There's much better ways to explain it than I have, though. So these things together like creates the way that we're going to study phenomena. This is the way that we're going to study the things that are given to us, and move from there, and study it in a wholly different way. Now, Husserl also, in this book, in this, The Crisis of the European Sciences and the Cartesian Meditations, he talks about wanting to create a genuine science, which does not have any of the natural attitude and is grounded in phenomenology, and is not, because like most of science has to do with, scientific realism or some kind of idealism, and to him it is not genuine. A genuine science would be a phenomenological science. Okay, on to Heidegger. That's a very brief thing. I have many videos on Husserl, so if you want to get more, and there are many other concepts that Husserl has. This is also a concept of Husserl, which I will get to. He has many other concepts. So I have videos, and there are many other videos on YouTube that aren't mine, and there are other resources online as well to figure that out. But also, if you want really good explanations and understanding, I highly recommend this. Martin Heidegger was a student of Husserl. However, Heidegger didn't agree with Husserl because Husserl had the formulation of essence, then existence. Husserl had the idea that essence precedes existence. Heidegger had the idea that existence precedes essence, and he kind of had a phenomenological ontology, or a hermeneutic phenomenology is the way it's also called, that deals with being and ontology before talking about essences. His book, Being in the World, Being in Time, a great one. Another one is The History of the Concept of Time, and he has many other books, and that going into many things. But that Being in Time is the best one to read if you want to get an idea of his philosophy. But being, as in being in the world, talking about Dasein, which in German means being there, and this is a way of understanding consciousness, but it's understanding ourselves and how we understand. Like the Dasein represents the conscious person, but consciousness is a good and yet a bad way to explain it. It's consciousness and yet it is not. It's very different. So we have being in the world, and he talks about a lot about ontology, ways of being. We have ontology, and then we have ontologicality. Ontic is like existence, is existence, concrete, or not concrete, but specific existence, and ontology is ways of being. So Heidegger turns it around and makes it about being, and creates a phenomenology out of that. It's still phenomenology because we are still a part of this epoche, and or looking at things in a different way, but he turns it around. Jean-Paul Sartre, his Being and Nothingness. This is mainly existentialist work. This is not entirely phenomenological. This is the existentialist treatise, the main existentialist work. However, it's phenomenological because the intro is an essay on phenomenological ontology, and he radicalizes this intentionality and says that consciousness is nothing but consciousness of something. And a lot of Sartre's existentialism comes from phenomenology. So, now I'm going to explain these two before I go into this stuff. First we have Jacques, and then next we have Jacques Derrida. What do we do with that other one? We have Jacques Derrida. This is a really nice work. Speech of Phenomena by Jacques Derrida. Derrida read Husserl, didn't like a lot of his philosophy as to how it was, and he thought of phenomenology as logocentric and having metaphysical presence. And in this book he talks a lot about that, and I have many videos about that. But he had the theory of deconstructionism, which is very complex and very different, so I have many videos on that, so you can look at that. But he's related to phenomenology because he started in that. He started in that and moved from that, and that's how we get deconstructionism. Hans-Georg Gadamer and Paul Ricoeur, they have the philosophy of hermeneutics. Hermeneutics has to do with interpretation and figuring out the way things actually are. So to Derrida, this is metaphysical presence as well. Derrida basically bashes on every kind of philosophy. Emmanuel Levinas, which I'm just getting into reading. Emmanuel Levinas he has a phenomenological ethic, so he's more close with Husserl in his philosophy, but also is very close with Derrida. And Derrida reads Levinas a lot as well. This book, Totality and Infinity by Levinas, a good one to read. So lastly, this intersubjectivity in the life world by Husserl. And I'm sort of writing so many lines, I don't even know what's going on. But the Cartesian Meditations by Husserl, in the fifth meditation, he talks about the experience of the other via the originalsphera, or the sphere of originality, and through that's the experience of the other, and understanding things intersubjectively. That's Heidegger has a different way of doing that as well. I'm personally on Heidegger's boat with respect to experiencing the other and intersubjectivity. The life world is well, you will experience it. You will read that in the Cartesian Meditations, but that's a lot of in here. The crisis of the European sciences. The life world is a dwelling. It's a place of dwelling, but it's the way everybody understands the world and the way people understand science, and that's highly relates to intersubjectivity as well. Again, I'm trying to give a little brief thing. I know I'm close to 20 minutes, but this is a very thick and very kind of complex thing, especially if you have never been introduced. So I apologize if I've left out something, and I also apologize if I've gone on too long. So if you think I've left out something or messed up, or if you have a question, please comment below. I'd love to discuss with you. And thank you for watching.